Hello, I'm Lisa Welsh, and I was the Communications Manager for WAS 2021. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Jane Fleishman. Hello, Jane, how are you?
Hi, Lisa. I'm psyched to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so great. You're here all the way from Massachusetts this morning.
Correct.
Although maybe afternoon for you. I haven't asked you that. It is great to see you today. Please could you share a little more about who you are and the work you do for anybody who's not familiar with you?
Well, first of all, I use she, her, doctor pronouns. Having gotten my doctorate at the age of 62, it's all very new for me, so I'm very proud of that. And I'm a sexuality educator. I'm certified through the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, or ASECT. I'm a sex researcher, and a lot of the research that I've done was part of my presentation that you all, I hope, will go and listen to because it was really hard to do, so I want you to hear it. And also, I'm a writer, and I just finished writing my first book, The Stonewall Generation, which is also the title of the talk, The Stonewall Generation, LGBTQ Elders, on three areas that I'm really concerned about, Lisa: sex, activism, and aging. And I guess what I wanted to tell folks today is why it's important that we take a look at this group of older adults. You know, this is a group who fought for rights, for legislation, for visibility. But this generation also fought for sex and the right to love whomever we pleased. And the people in my book that I honored, that I was so honored to meet, you know, I traveled all across the US to find the most interesting people who had stories about the Stonewall Rebellion, which happened on June 28th, 1969, and lasted about 5 days in the West Village, Greenwich Village of New York City, which was a hotbed of revolutionary action in that day. And I found the most incredible thing, Lisa. I found that each one of the people that I was interested in including in my book were also people who had made social change. They may not have been there that night at the Stonewall Tavern to fight back, and I might just read you a paragraph about it, but their lives were incontrovertibly changed because of the bravery and the courage of the people who fought against police brutality that night. And the police brutality is such a passion place for so much of us to fight against right now in the year of 2021, 2022. And it was also very prevalent back in the 60s when the police on a nightly basis would raid what we called gay bars back then, and people would be taken away in paddy wagons. They could lose their employment, they could lose their housing, they could lose their children, and yet they came back. And they came back because they wanted to have the freedom that we take often for granted today. So could I read you just a short, a little bit? So the book is mostly not my story. The book is mostly stories of 10 different people, and I talk about them in the workshop for WAS, which I was so happy to be invited to. But most of the time, people didn't fight back, and yet something happened that night, and it wasn't pre-planned. But here's what we may never know the full truth of what happened that night. But according to a Village Voice reporter who was there, the real turning point was when the police dragged a butch, mixed-race lesbian, Stormy de la Riviere, outside. Because the van was already full, they pushed her into one of the squad cars, but she got out 3 times and tried to run back into the bar. Finally, when one of the police pushed her back into the van, she yelled out, "Why don't you guys do something?" It was as if her question ignited the crowd. Gay men, lesbians, bisexual people fighting back, drag queens and butch lesbians leading the charge, proclaiming their identity, not what anyone would have expected. So it goes on, and I tell a lot of stories about what happened that night. Yeah, right. It's so exciting. So I would say I'll put some links up for how you can get involved in our discussions. We have a great group of people who've been talking about the book on Facebook. We have a Facebook page called the Stonewall Generation. I'll put a link up. And also, Lisa, we have a podcast, not just about LGBTQ elders and sex, but about all elders and sex, because, it's really been an invisible group. We sometimes think, as my good friend Joan Price, who's a wonderful 77-year-old who calls herself a senior sexpert, says, there's no expiration date on sex. And that's what I believe. And I'm trying to dismantle ageism, toxic discourses, and who has the right to be an erotic being. So please, if you folks are interested, it would be a great workshop if you're an older adult, because you can maybe hear glimmers of what life was like for you back in the 60s and 70s. But also if you're a younger person and want to learn a little bit about your history, or if you're an LGBTQ identified individual, please, I'd love to hear your comments, and you can get in touch with me, and Lisa can put links to how you can get in touch with me as well, I'm sure.
I absolutely will. Thank you, Jane. That was so warm and passionate and inviting. Thank you very much for sharing. And for everybody who did register for the Congress, for the 25th Congress, you still have access to all of the content, including Jane's presentation that she just spoke so passionately about. So please go onto the Hoover platform. You can search for Jane's name and her presentation will come up. You have until the end of December 2021 to watch that. And if you did not sign up for the Congress for WAS 2021, it is not too late. You can still sign up for now, only $50, and have access to everything. That is such a bargain. I'm sure you will agree. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on the publication of your book as well. That's great. Fantastic news.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Lisa. Great to be with you.
You too. Bye.